All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today. I am so excited to kick this off. This is something that people have been asking for such a long time. And how do we best use our workflows? Velocity has such a great tool for helping automate your process and helping you really stay on top of things. And we've got two of the best workflow users today here in Canada willing to let you in on their secret sauce and let you know, just how their business has grown and how they are able to operate very efficiently within their teams day to day using this amazing tool. So I'm not going to take up any much more of your time because we're all waiting to hear from these lovely ladies. First, though, I am going to show you because I know a lot of you will ask throughout, Sarah, where do we find, is this being recorded or how do we view the last few sessions? So I do want to point that out. On newton.ca, if you go to the Learn tab in the top right corner and find the advanced line, we have as the last stop, because this is a masterclass on the advanced line, our masterclass kind of homepage. And so this will always contain the link to join the next one as well as the next topic and previous session takeaways. So after today, our goal is always to give you guys three really tangible takeaways that you can walk away and three things you can introduce to your business that day to start making moves towards improvement. So we'll have them broken down for you. As well, if you scroll down a bit, you'll find the recordings to the last session. So if you are looking to rewatch today's or any of the previous ones, these will always be here. Quick housekeeping matter, if you do have questions, we are very tight on sticking to our timeline and our topics because we have so much juice to share with you guys today, and we have it all planned out. So we're not really super open to topics and questions that are going to be kind of outside, of what we have planned for you guys, because it's in the best interest of the large audience that we have here. But if you did have questions, you can type them in the Q&A preferably. That way everyone can really follow the answers, and I will be moderating that to try to answer them for you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to the amazing Julie.
Hello, it's so nice to see you, Sarah. We have two fantastic guests today, Gert Martens and Cindy White. And Gert, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your team, a little bit about your business, where you're based, and how long you've been using Velocity. You are so incredibly respected in our industry. I know you're with DLC, and you are an absolute favorite on Team Blue, and we can't wait to hear a little bit more about how you're using the system. So please introduce yourself and let us know.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks, Sarah, for putting on this training session. I'm with Dominion Lending Centers out of Grande Prairie, Dominion Lending Centers HT Mortgage Group. We have an underwriter, I have a team of 4 underwriters, and yes, we've been using Velocity now for 3 years. Velocity's been amazing for us to help us grow our business. Some of the things I love most about it is the workflows. So yeah, I'm excited to share what we do and how we use those workflows.
Awesome. Thank you, Gert. And Cindy, the same. You're on Tracy Valko's team. You are running her underwriting team. That is a big, big, big job. I am guessing workflows are really helpful to you. And just tell us a little bit about how long you've been using Velocity and how many underwriters are you working with?
So we've been using, well, I started with Tracy January of 2019, and they were already using Velocity. So I actually can't speak to how long the office, but I do believe they were an early adopter. I manage a team of 6 underwriters, and they all underwrite Tracy's book, although there are other agents out there who also have underwriters under me. So depending on the model that they've joined Valko Financial, they're either doing their own book of business as an agent or they have an underwriter from my team. I can't say, and we're all not in the same office. I mean, we're all over the country. Without workflows, we would not be able to process mortgage files efficiently. The workflows really help Tracy. If she does go into a deal, everything is handled the same way. We have no paper files. We wouldn't be able to we'd all have to go into the office if there were paper files. So that's just not so Velocity has been outstanding in helping us develop the workflows in order for us to consistently, every single underwriter consistently handles every file the same way.
That's so great. I love that. So we have three really great takeaways today. The first one we're going to dig into is this idea of customization. So velocity is a very, as you know, I say this all the time to everyone. It is a very powerful system. It can do honestly as little as you want, which is submit an application to a lender, but it can take your business all the way through all those steps and levels of organization. So let's really dig into how do we all use workflows differently? Because it's really interesting. In doing some prep for this call, I find we use workflows, the three of us, very differently. I'll start with a little bit about how I'm using workflows and how I've customized my system. I'm also almost exclusively using the workflows for emails. So I love email templates. I love to have the core information that every client needs, whether that is a transfer, a refinance, or a purchase, the core details, 6 to 10 core emails that we can send out. And so I'm really using the email workflows very much. And Sarah has some examples that she'll be able to share a little bit later as to what I'm using them for. So I'm very email focused. But Cindy, I want to ask you, first of all, you have a different use of workflows, and I believe it's more task based. Is that right? So tell us a little bit about what you have set up for workflows and how you're using them, how you've customized them.
So we take a look at the deal from start to finish, and what triggers would we want to have to remind ourselves to do the next task on the deal. So initially we have, we're ready to submit the deal, we submit it. 2 days after, so it's in submitted status. So all of my workflows are basically status driven and task driven. So the status is submitted. So the system will automatically remind me within 2 days, business days, to check and see if the lender's approved it. This way I don't have, if I have to have a little notepad beside me for every single file, I have 50 files on the go, I'm not going to remember, but the system reminds me. After it's approved, there's a task that says create and review the condition list. And so that's either my phone call or my email out to the client to say, hey, congratulations, we're approved. And then 1 day after that, a reminder again pops out for me to send the documents out for e-sign. 2 days after the e-sign documents are sent, it reminds me to check and see if I've received them. Once the client has signed it, it goes into an accepted status. That will remind me to send an introduction to the solicitor, order the appraisal if needed. And then I have various lender condition follow-ups 20, 15, and 10 days prior to close, because we like to have our files file complete 10 days prior to close, to remind me to check the lender's portal to see what conditions are still outstanding.
I love
once it is, yeah. So I don't know if you want me to go through it all, but that's the sort of thing that we're looking at.
So you've created, and how I'm looking at this is you've almost created that perfect experience where if it's you or if it's anyone on your underwriting team, you're creating this real sense of consistency, because the timeline to complete tasks and to order an appraisal or to send out a mortgage commitment are really time triggered. So that's one thing I want to mention when you're setting up workflows. And as what Cindy said, is I really want everyone to start to think about, what do you want to happen? In Cindy's case, she wants to remind herself or her team of a task that needs to be completed. So what is it that you want to happen? The when is the trigger. So you really want to think about that trigger and when is that going to happen? You can hear Cindy saying, it's this many days, it's 2 days after, it's 4 days after. So the other thing, Cindy, I'm guessing you guys are going to need to be doing is you're keeping your statuses really cleaned up, because your statuses are the thing that are actually is actually the trigger. So yes. Is there anything you do relating to the status? Are you quite careful in just making sure that everything's in the right column and the right status?
Exactly. And I have a weekly pipeline review meeting. I was a lender for 34 years managing large underwriter teams. And so pipeline management is key. So every Monday we go through, they share their screen, or I can actually see their deals. And I'll say, okay, this file's not broker complete yet. Why not? Or what are you waiting for? Okay, this is sitting and approved, but I thought this was already waiting to close. Oh yeah, that's the wrong status. And so we go through that on a weekly basis. But quite frankly, if you look at your dashboard and use your dashboard daily, you can keep your statuses up to date.
You really
can. Closing date is really, really important. If you're going to push out the date, you need to make sure you push out the date in velocity, not just with a lender.
Yes, that's right. We actually, I love this idea. So you're doing these weekly meetings with your entire team. If you're an individual agent, I really want to encourage everyone, whether you have staff working with you or not, if you're just an individual agent, set aside those 15 minutes, every Monday. We do every Monday morning. We do every Wednesday afternoon and every Friday morning. And we take 15 minutes. I have 2 full-time staff, and we take 15 minutes each of those times to just do a real quick cleanup of the dashboard and to make sure everything is in the right status. So I think that setting aside a little bit of time can save us all a lot of pain later.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that really, when you have, like as Tracy has, is a large team of underwriters, people go on vacation, but if everyone is doing their deals the same way, someone can cover for someone who's on vacation and quick and very seamlessly. It doesn't really matter to the customers. Hey, I'm calling from Tracy's office, but they know exactly where the deal has been left off. And that's consistency is so key.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So yes, you're able to pop into a file. You're able to do the tasks and the work needed. Anyone on your team can do that. I'm almost there with our team. We have 2 newer staff, so it takes a little bit of time in the learning and the training. So Gert, let's move on to you. Are you mostly using workflows for email or tasks, or are you doing anything with the SMS texting?
I'm mostly emails like you. We've started doing more tasks since we've chatted with Cindy, and she uses it a lot for tasks. I've started adding tasks into deals. Like I've had clients calling and asking for, let's say, payout statements. And these are clients that we had 3 years ago. And I want one of the underwriters to request a payout statement. I just throw it in as a task and it shows up in my day, which I absolutely love. So we've started doing that, but primarily to begin with, we were using it mostly for email templates. And I had them all fairly customized. And same thing as you, I've started adapting at the very top of the email in bold lettering in red. I put in, this is who this workflow goes to, CC to so-and-so, send it to certain people. So it's very customized in every step.
Right. And are you, are you using some of the content where you can grab the data from the app and pull it into the email templates? Are you doing that?
Yes, I use a lot, putting the borrower's name into it, adding the address, like when we send to the listing realtor and we send to the seller or the buyer's realtor, we always add in the property address and we pull that right from the app, just embed it right in the workflow, which is very easy and handy to do. You don't have to refer back to the offer. It all pops in there automatically.
It is so easy. So 2 things you said I want to go back to. You start off, as I do, any of the email-based workflows with yours is red, mine is bold, and we each just have a little line. And the beginning, the first line is deleted before you hit send. But that little line is for our teams to understand. Who are we sending this to and who are we CCing? And I'm training 2 new people. So I actually went in and even added why. Why are we sending this? To help our team, they're very new to the industry as well, understand just kind of my thought process behind, what is the reason that we're doing this and the kind of information we want to add. So you have a workflow that's relating to Google reviews. I want to hear a little bit about that. And how's that working for you? And are you getting more Google reviews? Because we know how important Google reviews are.
Yeah, definitely. I'm getting more. It just adds that consistency where you're sending it out for more clients. And it's all templated there, right? My link to the Google page is linked right in the email. I can customize it, for the clients. I pull in their names through embedding the names out of the application, but I can also go in and just add something more personal to make it look more personalized. And
let's dig into that a little bit. So, and then actually Sarah's showing us a screenshot. I really want everyone to see what Gert and I are saying. Do you see how it's just 3 little stars. Paula is my client care manager. It says Paula sends this email. It's her part of her role. It may or may not be sent is actually something I've said, because this is the submitted to lender email. And if we're late in the process of submitting, we've had the deal for a few days and it's taking a while, there's times we might not send it. So I'm giving her a little bit of the why and my thought process around that. And then you can see that the percentage signs are where you grab in. It says insert template. You can actually grab in all the details from the application as well. And I love what you just said though, Gert. I really need to improve on this. You're adding a lot more personal touches. So yes, it's a templated email, but you're saying that you and your team are pausing a moment to say, okay, what do I need to say? Whether that's even, I hope you're surviving the heat, or whatever little comment it is. I know you mentioned that last week, that you're adding in just that warm touch. I really like that. That makes a templated email have a lot of warmth if you take the time to do 1 or 2 quick lines in the beginning. So I think that's a really good tip. You can not just send this, you can actually do a little bit of customization as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and with the Google review, I typically will send it out kind of a week prior to closing. And I've done it, there's times where I've done it after closing. Right now I'm doing it about a week prior to closing. I don't know if there's a big difference, but I kind of thought I'd try it this way, because I felt like at that point we'd kind of done a lot of hard work for the clients. And, at that time, for them to give us a nice 5-star review is pretty easy for the clients, because the work's kind of done. They're just waiting to get off to the lawyer, and
right.
They're not busy moving and settling in. So I kind of like it that way right now. I might switch it up from time to time when I feel like, there's a better time, or maybe after closing, but right now I'm doing it a week before closing.
That's right. I heard a joke from another broker, and I thought only brokers will only brokers will laugh at this, that we should always ask for Google reviews right after they get their keys, not when the moving boxes are unpacked, but before the first payment comes out. They have their keys, they are unpacked, they're sitting there having a beer, a glass of wine, enjoying their new home, but they haven't had to make a payment yet. It's the perfect time to ask for a Google review. So that's
we actually ask for it on closing day.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so right away when they're super excited, Cindy, and they're keen to add a review for you, that's great. So yeah, I mean this first takeaway is really, let's regroup on it. It's about customizing. It's about all of us are running different kinds of businesses in different provinces. Some of us are individual agents, some of us have large teams. And what we're doing though is taking velocity and we're using it in ways that work best for us. And that's one thing I love about the workflows, is that it can also be the SMS text, it could be email, it could be task-based, it can be reminder-based. You can also tag other people if the task or reminder is for someone else. So sometimes our client care manager will actually have tasks that are tagged to me. Refunds, for example, if I'm refunding a cost for something or covering an appraisal cost, she'll have me tagged in the workflows and doing that specific task for refunds. So let's move on to our next takeaway. So our first one was customization. Our next one is consistency. And I'm kind of obsessed with this one. This is my favorite thing in the world, and that is why I love email templates. So I have this vision for our business, which is I want not just the wording of our emails or the things that we say to our clients on the phone. I actually want the tone to be really consistent between my partner and myself and anyone who's working for us. So I like this idea of the words and the tone of everything we send out or everything we say to our clients to have a lot of consistency. And I think that the workflows are something that can really add consistency to tone and wording, but they can also add consistency to your application. And I think we are all best when we are repeating, and when we are repeating, but constantly improving what we're repeating. So that's a focus for us, is it should be very, very, very similar. The changes that we make on our team are about improvement. So Cindy, let's talk about that. In terms of consistency, I heard you say you're paperless. So how do you think that workflows have helped you, add consistency on the team? And it sounds like you're really entirely paperless. How is that going, and how have the workflows helped with that?
Well, the workflows, if you put in the status specific tasks, you're not having to write reminders anywhere on a calendar or handwritten. You have to trust the system and that it is going to remind you in My Day or the top right hand corner with that little check mark. So it's either in there or it's in My Day. Those tasks will appear every day. And it's important that you do them every day. Otherwise, I usually have 40 to 50 tasks a day to do. And some of it is, just checking back to see, because any deal that I haven't submitted, I have parked. And so it doesn't show up on my dashboard anymore. So it reminds me to reach out to the customer and say, hey, how's your house search coming? Or have you gotten the separation agreement yet? Or whatever I'm waiting for in order to submit the deal. But the 40 or 50 are sometimes, quick and easy to do. Might take me an hour, sometimes two, but it allows me not to have to write things down. And that's the beauty of it. And using the notes within the deal. There's nothing that irritates me more into going into a deal and there are no notes in it. So the underwriters are trained to every conversation, every email, it gets put into Velocity in the event that you win the lottery and you quit the next day. I like that better than run over by a bus. So
I love that.
Use the system. If you're thinking about writing it down, use the system to either put in a note or assign a task to you. Like that's future dated.
I love that. That's right. So we have a no notepads. I don't even allow notepads. Cindy, I think we're long lost soulmates, you and I, seriously. Every time you have an idea, I love it. Same with Gert. I know we're all very, very focused on the details because we all know when you're doing a lot of volume, and like you say, when you have 50 or 60 or 70 live apps, as I call them, submitted apps on a dashboard, there's a lot of responsibility there. So the notes section, I think is a winner. I think that even as an individual agent, I cannot encourage it enough. For every time that you touch that application, every time that you take action, if you're sending an email, the emails are stored. If you're sending the emails from Velocity, which I strongly feel you should send all of your emails out of Velocity, then your emails are stored in the communication section. But maybe you're just you've had a quick call with the client. I just pop in PC phone call and just a really quick little note on anything important that we talked about. What you don't want is your client care manager to call the client and then you call the client an hour later, but you don't realize that they already called the client. It's just embarrassing. So even if we just do a little call, we make sure we're always sending all the emails from Velocity, and we're always making sure to make a note. That's great. So I love that you're paperless. Your team works remotely. You can work in any city. And what you're saying is so important. Anyone can jump in at any time, whether there's a sick day, there's a sick kid, there's something that's happened. Maybe they won the lottery. I love that. That's a very positive way to look at it. So Gert, let's talk about consistency for your team. How do you think that the workflows are adding that idea of consistency? And is there anything specific that you're doing in workflows that you feel like are kind of helping make sure your team sounds like you, runs their day and manages your clients and takes care of people as you want them to?
Well, I think the workflows itself creates that consistency because every file gets the same workflow. Like if especially if like for example, purchases, if you've set a workflow that's for purchases, every single file that's keyed in as a purchase, that workflow is going to pop up. And you can, of course, choose if you want to do it for that application or not. You can actually send out workflows and they can have my email signature on it. It can look like it can come directly from me and not my staff. So I really like that part where, you could be sending out 350 emails a day, but you didn't actually touch one of them. It was all your staff doing it. So we've really customized it that way. And it creates a very, very consistent flow for every single client. And it's a consistent experience. What I like especially about the communication side of it is even realtors. A lot of times I feel like, I'm busy, I'm working on applications, and, you forget to maybe call that realtor, but that workflow just pops up and it reminds you, hey, just let the realtor know where we're at with the file. Just let them know that we've just submitted the application. Or, we've got one workflow that I really love. It's the morning of our condition date. Like first thing in the morning, 9 o'clock, you send that realtor the email and say, hey, we know today's our condition date. We fully anticipate we'll be waiving our financing by the end of the day. We'll be in touch. And it just kind of lets everybody sit back instead of panic that day of condition date if we haven't waived yet.
You're actually being really preemptive there. I love that idea. I'm always saying to our team, I really dislike being reactive. I want to be proactive. So that is such a great workflow that if you haven't yet met conditions, you can have that one set up. It sounds very generic. It's warm. It's friendly. It's reassuring the client and the realtor. We know we're on condition date. We are on top of it. You are a priority. We're going to meet conditions, and just give us a few more hours and there'll be another update. I think the worst thing in the world for a realtor and for us as aid mortgage agents is when you get that call or text and they say, how's it going? And I always say, if we get the how's it going text or email, I feel that's failure. We're always going to get the deal done. We're always going to meet conditions. But if they have to send us that text saying, how's it going? My heart sinks every time. So I love that you're using it. You're using it to reassure. You don't even need a lot of content in that one, do you? You just need reassurance. And that's so morning of COF in Alberta, you guys, for all you guys in Ontario, we have COFs here. We actually, we aren't condition free like BC and Ontario. Cindy's laughing at us going, oh, you silly gals. Yeah, we actually have that. So that's great. I also love something else you said, Gert, and you basically said, you can be in the system and send an email as anyone. So your staff can send an email that is leaving from your email. And we do that all the time. And so it's like having 10 extra sets of hands, isn't it? Because you're focused on new business and focused on sales and bringing in new business and all those kinds of things. You need 10 sets of hands in this business, and you need to be able to have people feel like that email is coming from you. We're very careful about what the content is. It's always quite generic. It's always just a little reminder of something, or things are going well. But we definitely do that. I do the reverse. Sometimes on the weekends, I send emails as if I'm my client care manager, because I want the reply to go to her. So I go into Velocity and I'll send the client an email, and sometimes it's hassling people on getting documents in, or if there's a challenge or a problem, but I'll send it as if it's her, and then the reply goes to her email. So I really love that idea. Let's go back through this. So the tone, your wording, your templates, consistency across your teams, I think is really, really important. And then doing the same thing every time. And that's kind of something I learned originally from Scott Peckford. All those years ago when I started, I watched all of his, and I still watch them, all of his podcasts. They're so good. And he has this idea of this perfect client experience. And so for any agent who's listening, I want everyone to think about their perfect client experience for transfers, refis, and purchases. And then how can you use a piece of Velocity like workflows to really create that perfect client experience that's about being proactive, not reactive. And my best tip is, when you are reactive, when you do get a call or a question, or you get a stressed out client, or you have an upset realtor, you have to stop and take a moment and have one document on your desktop. We have a list every week that we have, and that is, as soon as we get questions back from people, we go, we probably didn't do a good enough job of explaining property taxes, or we didn't do a good enough job of explaining what's going to happen at the lawyer meeting or FCT. So we have a list every week, and then we jump into Velocity on Fridays. We edit our workflows, we add workflows and things like that to make sure that we're not, if someone says, well, I don't really understand the property tax piece, you're like, ooh, fail. That's fail. We need to make sure they do. So that's another piece of advice.
If I may interject, we have a quick question that I think is good to address from the ladies. Michael Harris wants to know, assign to, do you assign everything to yourself and then have your assistant log in as you with your workflows, or do you assign the workflow to both yourself and your assistant? What's kind of the best practice? He only has one staff member right now.
Okay, so I'll answer for myself, and then I'll have Gert and Cindy answer and how they handle that. For us, I have a client care team, and my team, I have 2 people right now, and my team uses one account in Velocity, and my team, my 2 staff members share an email right now. That doesn't work for everyone, but that works for me. I like that we only have the client care email, and they are both responsible for emails. They know how to sort their emails. We have another email that's not client facing, so that internally there's a way to communicate, but client facing, we have one email and one account in Velocity. And the workflows for our client care team are actually set up in the client care account. So that's how we do it. And that way they're just assigned to the client care team, and they're both in that account. How do you handle that, Cindy, in terms of who things are assigned to?
So at the top of Velocity, you have agent and assigned. If you're looking in modern view, Tracy is always the agent, and every underwriter has their own login ID. If Tracy wants something done, she just assigns it to the underwriter. She doesn't assign it to herself. If I've assigned something to Tracy because I need her to get back to me, I will assign myself another task for the next day to say, did she get back to me? Because once she marks that task complete, I might lose track of the file. Every time I leave a file, I make sure I have a future dated deal specific task to remind me of what's next to do.
Oh, I love that. And then for your workflows, are they assigned to underwriters, or does the underwriter ever?
They're assigned to the person who is assigned the deal. So they're automatically assigned to whatever who is in the assigned section of Velocity.
Yeah, I like that. And you know what? That is exactly the right answer. And for anyone who went, I need to think about that a little bit more, what I'm going to say is, when you really start to dig into workflows, what Cindy just said is the tasks are for the person who the application is assigned to. It makes a lot of sense once you really dig into workflows. So just keep going and moving ahead with building your workflows. If you're on a team, it becomes very, very obvious in that section. Great. Okay, so Sarah, let's move on to the last takeaway. So we've talked about customization, we've talked about consistency. One of my favorite topics is communication, and whether that is internal or external, whether that is relating to a client or a lender. And I'm going to share, again, I'm going to go back to this thing that I call the golden rule. If in the run of your day, week, or month, for any of us, if you are asked the same question more than once in a day or more than once in a week, you have to know that every client is wondering. They want to know what's going to happen at the lawyer. What happens at the lawyer meeting? What goes on there? What do I need to take? What do I need to prepare for? Or people will say, do I need to send you condo documents? How does this work? So when you're asked these questions more than once, that is where you have to stop yourself and make a note and say, I need a workflow that answers some of these questions. So anticipating the questions in advance is going to make for a much smoother process in terms of communication. And there's also this idea in communication that, there's internal and external workflows. So Cindy, I feel like you're using them in a lot of ways internally. You're creating tasks that your underwriters need to do and achieve and move on to the next step. And then there's another task that appears. So I think of that kind of as an internal workflow. Mine are probably more external, where they're client facing, or they're going out to the list realtor or the client's realtor. So let's talk a little bit about communication. And Gert, what are some of the ways that you're finding that workflows are helping you with communication? And I'm interested to know, in terms of the workflows, it sounds like you're reaching out to the realtors. Are there other parties that you're reaching out to in part of your email workflows as well, beyond the client?
Yeah, with the workflows, there's stages that we've set up. We use, the pre-approval stage, which is more us to the clients. We talk about tips to keep in mind, just that type of stuff. And then I have a stage where we're at submission. So then there's multiple workflows in the submission stage. That incorporates the clients, the realtors involved. Sometimes that'll incorporate an appraiser if we've already got an appraisal to order. And then we've got an approval stage, which typically also includes realtors, clients, lawyers at that stage when we're sending out conveyancing. And then at closing stage, that there's multiple workflows there as well, which incorporate same thing, lawyers, realtors, clients. So yeah, that's typically the people involved in the workflow stages.
That's great. And so I want to make sure everyone understands that once you enter a contact in a Velocity, you enter the name and email, then then when you go to type in their email, it comes up when you're sending your email. So the email appears once it's saved in there once. So that's helpful. That's really great. Now I had there's a question I want to answer, and someone said for the triggers, can you set the triggers to be business days, Monday to Friday? And the answer to that is no. So I want you to think about that for everyone setting up workflows, because you see that the trigger is X amount of days after. So you have the trigger, let's say it's submitted. The days from trigger for submitted can only be after the submitted date. But you need to be really careful on that, because it's not about Monday to Friday. So if you sent in something on a Thursday and you trigger 2 days after, the reminder appears on Saturday. So Monday morning, if that's happened, you're going to, if you're not working on Saturday, as many of our staff are not, you're going to see that reminder on Monday morning. So sometimes we find Monday mornings are a bit of a busy day because a lot of our task and workflow reminders are appearing on Monday morning. So Monday is a good time to, before we do anything, we do a quick cleanup of any tasks that are or workflows left over from the last part of the week. But yeah, so that's the answer to that question, Kristen. It's not so much based on Monday to Friday. It's just days before or after the trigger. Okay. And Cindy, what would you say in terms of the communication? So you're using it more for tasks. Are there pieces of workflows that you are using for client communication, or if are you not using anything?
Tracy has fully embraced the Velocity CRM. I have nothing to do with that. She has a person. So there are all sorts of emails, automated emails going out based on statuses. So all of those ones that you mentioned all go out. So that's why I always say to the underwriters, if your statuses are not accurate, then the client's going to get an email that doesn't make sense to them. So yes, we have fully embraced the CRM. I don't get involved with that. Tracy's a huge social media influencer, and she loves the CRM, and she has set up, we have 80 campaigns set up already.
Wow. Tracy Valko is so impressive. Oh my gosh. I'm such a fan of hers, and I'm always watching what she's doing, and I'm always literally saying, I need to do more, because she's always doing more and doing something so cool and unique. So I want to be really clear on the difference here. And Sarah, you and I know there's a big difference, and people sometimes get confused. We are talking about workflows today. I want to give you all an idea of why the way I differentiate for me, and each of us is different in this, but how do I look at it? In a workflow, the workflows I have created are workflows where I want there to be a decision made by my team or myself if I want to send the email, if I want to. Sometimes we don't send it. Sometimes we just delete the reminder. If you are okay with going, I don't need to make the decision, and I'm just going to have everything automated and sent out, you could certainly set up the exact same concepts we're talking about in the Velocity CRM, which is what Tracy has set up. You can set up, but then they're just, you could still go in and check to see if you want them sent. But most people who are using the Velocity CRM for these kind of emails are writing quite generic emails. So not super detailed, very broad about the stages or the steps happening in applications, and they're automatically popping out from the system. These workflows are someone is physically going into the system, opening the workflow and deciding to send it, or adding a little bit of personality, much like Gert's adding those little warm touches. So it's the same idea, but there's two very different ways to achieve that. So you just have to decide if it's something you want to constantly be reviewing and deciding and editing and sending, or if you want to do it more like Tracy, I hear she's just a whiz at at all all the templates and all the campaigns. So that's just a bit of a differentiator. Again, I think this goes back to customization. The reason that you all know that I just obsessively love velocity, and part of it is because I'm just amazed that all of these pieces of the system work differently for each of us. And I might do something in one way, and Cindy and Gert might do something in another way. And some of us might be using the Velocity CRM, and some of us are using workflows. Sarah, do you have anything else to comment on just kind of the differentiator between those two?
Yeah, sure. And we do get asked a lot. And the Velocity CRM, the answer is quite clear, is that the Velocity CRM, the more automated one, is a little bit more robust, and it is very new, and we still have a lot of phases to that coming out soon, and there is plenty of training on that. And that's your more, kind of fancy, templated. You can have videos, you can have images, lots of different colored text, and it is more of your automated, happy birthday, happy anniversary, drip towards mortgage maturity coming up. Whereas the workflows, like you said, are typically there's more details in there, and it's more of a business decision at the time of like whether you should send it or not. And again, the part that I think that is the most magic about them is that you can customize. So you can sit, really put in that extra, like I think Gert's asked with the Google review, and I know someone else chimed in to say it's worked fabulously for them. Just putting in a little bit extra and asking them, how their move went and everything to add some personality for it. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest difference. Workflows and My Day are super simple to use. You can set tasks and stuff from the application, set up automated ones, lots of different ways to do it. I did paste in the chat the link to watch the workflow and tasks training for those of you who do want to take this on and learn a bit more about it. So I highly recommend that you go and watch that.
Yeah.
Sarah, sorry, quickly. Remember how when we were preparing for this, when you went into workflows, it defaults to active versus inactive. So if you don't know where to start and go, oh my gosh, that is so much information that I've received today. If you go, can you share like how to go into workflows? And there are some that Velocity has created. You just have to activate them.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. So on your workflow screen, guys, you'll find workflows under me and then workflows. You'll have a blank slate because it's basically defaulting to showing inactive. But at the top here with this show, if you change this to show all, I'm sorry, defaults to active, change to show all, and it's going to give you a bunch of kind of out of the box pre-built ones that we've essentially as a team created for you that we recommend you use. So it is as simple as coming in here and saying, I should give my client a text when conditions have been met, make this active, or click the blue pencil, change up the messaging, and then make it active. So you do have a bunch of, best practice recommendations already in here for you.
And those will create tasks for you, right, Sarah?
Yes.
They create tasks.
Yeah, these are workflows that will create, essentially you can call it a task. So a reminder task that will go off both on your My Day calendar over here, as well as up in this top check mark.
Yeah, and that top check mark. So two things there you said are so important, Sarah. For anyone who wants to set up or add more workflows, I suggest going to show all, or even you can go to just show that so that people can see if there's other ones they might find really great and helpful to add, maybe on top of what they're already using. I know I did that last week. I went through all my own, and then I went through all the system presets and started adding some of the system presets because they're really great. And then it's as simple as clicking active. You do want to click the pencil, and you do want to think about, do I like what this says? Do I like how this sounds? And maybe just add your little own warm touch in there. It's going to be really important to add something in there for sure. And someone also mentioned, where does this show up once you do this? Well, if it's an email, the email appears in your communication history if you send an email. So that's where you're always going to, if you hit send from an email in a workflow, you will absolutely see that inside your application in communication history. communication history is a place to get really comfortable with and learn it and understand it and open it and look at it, because it's just a really great way to go back and remind yourself, what emails have I sent to the client? What was the communication? You're going to see it all in there. So we have a few minutes left. I want to hear from Gert, what do you think is your best workflow, the one that's most effective, and it's just adding the most to your business? Or do you just have a favorite that you just really like, or your clients really like?
I mean, I love all the workflows. It just helps so much in the day-to-day operations. Of course, the Google one, hands down, it's awesome. One that I wanted to talk about today is we have a Purchase Plus workflow. And this one kind of came about, and I built it because of a client's experience where I felt like we hadn't done our job communicating. So this one was built after a client was halfway through their renos, and they're calling us and they're like, we need to pay the contractor and we need our money. And they just hadn't realized that the improvements had to be completed before they're going to get their money. So they had, the communication on our side just wasn't good enough for this process. So I built this Purchase Plus improvements workflow so that every single application where you click Purchase Plus improvements in the app, this workflow automatically comes up. So it's very, very specific to a specific deal or file. But it all just helps explain the whole process of what the client can expect if they're doing Purchase Plus improvements.
Okay, this is a wow. I am now, after this call, Gert, I am not leaving my laptop. I'm setting up this workflow. I'm calling it the Gert. This is incredible. I had not thought, it's so obvious when you say it that way. And it's so obvious when you see the Purchase Plus improvement as the application purpose. And that you can, like you said, you can reduce anxiety. You can make sure you're ahead and you're being proactive, not reactive. And your clients, because they aren't us, they don't know anything about mortgages. They like many do of my clients, they think, well, where's my money? How am I doing my reno? I need my money, or my contractors really needs to get paid. So you're giving them all of the steps. And I can see that it's generic enough that this is going to work for every lender. You don't have to worry about, is it FirstNet, is it MCAP, is it Scotia, is it TD? You're keeping it really for everyone. Please keep these things generic enough that it works for almost everything. You don't want to go down the rabbit hole of making too many things too detailed. So you can see it's just a really, really generic, the core details of everything to do with Purchase Plus. So that one's really cool. I need to add that.
You know what else would, Julie, that would be cool is if you had something for a first-time home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a really cool one too, to sort of say, this is what you can expect. This is how it flows from, because they've never done a mortgage before, and you could tell them, but some people don't retain what they hear, but they will retain what they see.
That's right. So we're kind of doing that. And I've had a lot of experiences lately, and I love that idea that even my second time buyers and third time buyers, and you think they're very experienced, and then halfway through they go, what do you mean I need a deposit with my offer? And I'm like, this is the fourth time you bought a home, right? And so in some ways, I treat every single purchase as if the clients are first-time home buyers, because I feel like it's kind of like, it's kind of like going to the doctor once a year, or, if you've ever had to go and take a new something, like getting your boating license or something that's completely new. And you're just like, how does this work? I feel like that's how mortgages work. And people every time go, what? How does this work? Even if it's their fourth home. So I'm really treating a lot of my email templates and my workflows just with such core and basic details. And I always add a little line that says, you may already know all of these details, but we just want to make sure we're being as helpful as possible. I think people are never offended with more information. I think they're stressed out when they don't have enough. So that's a really good point on all of these emails. Distill it down to really simple ideas, like Gert has here on the Purchase Plus, and really clear ideas so that it works for someone who's brand new to this, or who thinks they're a very experienced home buyer. And Cindy, what would you say is your favorite workflow? What is the one you think has the biggest bang for the buck? Did we lose Cindy? Sorry, I'm
Sorry
gonna
about that.
share mine. What's your
Sorry,
favorite?
we're just having some major tornado warnings right here.
Oh my gosh.
Apparently, there's towns around me that have disappeared, so I'm just sort of watching out, and it's getting very windy. So sorry, can you ask me a question again?
You need to leave, please do. Safety.
I will.
Oh my gosh, this is Sarah. This is the most exciting masterclass we've had. I was just saying, what is your favorite workflow? What is the one you think has the biggest bang for the buck and that really just like adds a bit of wow, it makes life easier for your team?
Your file is now broker complete.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so we said as soon as we move it to waiting to close, so once we get the, you tick off that box, all lender conditions met, it changes the status to waiting to close. It automatically, the system will, if you've got it set up in your workflow, will remind you to let the customer know, hey, all my bugging you for documents is now over. Now it's the lawyer's turn. And then we sort of explain, your lender is confirmed, your file is now complete. Your lawyer was instructed on such and such a date. And they will be reaching out to you shortly to schedule a signing appointment. I will touch base with you again on closing day to ensure that everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, I agree. I think I love that one as well. We have something very similar. We CC the client, their realtor, the lawyer, and the paralegal. And we added a line recently that we underline and bold it. And that line says to the lawyer and paralegal, please reply to this email. If there's any issues, challenges, or further questions, we'll be able to assist you. Versus, what happens, the lawyer or paralegal calls the client and the client goes, oh my gosh, something's wrong when nothing's wrong. So that one's been helping us. I've had a number of lawyers recently who reply saying, I love this email. Can I use it for my own business? I had 2 lawyers in the last month who say, I love this email. I don't send something like this to my own clients. I appreciate that you did. And can I use the content of that? So that one works really well for me. I think that the COF one for me, we have reminders on COF, task reminders. That one I find really, really helpful. When you get a lot of COFs on the go and you have a team, it's hard to manage those. So we start 3 days before COF, 2 days, and then morning of, and have a bit different process for each one. So Sarah, we have just a few minutes left. Anything you want to add at this point, Sarah? No? Did we lose Sarah?
No, sorry, I was just answering a question. No, I think we're good. Let's just do a quick, if we could, in a second, summary of our takeaways.
Great.
Starting with, give me one moment. Okay.
Perfect.
Starting with number 1.
Yeah, so let's go back through these. So I think the number 1 takeaway is the idea of customization. We all run our businesses very differently. We work in different markets, we're in different provinces, and we have different styles. Figure out, you all know what your style is, so you need to start to figure out inside of Velocity, what are the pieces of the system that I want to add? Am I someone who wants email templates? Do I just want task reminders? Am I someone who wants the SMS texting? Make sure that when you're customizing Velocity, that it works for you. Take pieces of what you're hearing from all of us. And I think the other piece of this is start with a daily status cleanup. Look at each column and make sure that the deals in each column should actually be in those columns, and just keep those statuses really tidy. You can move them along into the statuses, and I think that's going to help everyone with all of your workflows. So number 1 is our customization. Number 2 is the idea of consistency. Again, whether you're an individual agent or you have a team as large as Cindy's or Gert's, it works to be consistent. What is your perfect client experience? What does that look like? One of the things you can do to create that perfect client experience is you can literally create a flow chart. I know years ago, I took these giant stickies, the kind of kindergarten teachers have, these huge pieces of paper, and I stuck them on the wall. And I used different colored sticky notes, yellow, green, blue, which were emails, calls, or tasks. And I literally created, if I could have a perfect work day, work month, work year, what would that look like for my clients and myself? And I created my flow. So you can go as big as this one. You know, that I know people feel overwhelmed by that. Honestly, it only took me a couple hours, and it has been the best thing that I've done in my business. So take the time, and then start small. Once you have this vision, you know, build one or two and go from there. I also think that the consistency will help you grow. So if you're an individual agent and we all want to make more money in less time, we want to close more business in less time. That is really one of the most valuable parts of working in velocity. I think you can do more business in less time if you use the system to its fullest. So think about going paperless so that you can be ready to have admin at some point. Okay. Number 3 is communication. So really, let's get super consistent. Again, I believe that we can all do more business in less time if we're unbelievably consistent, even as individual agents. So get really consistent in what you're sending out to underwriters, realtors, clients. The golden rule is if you get asked the same question more than once, you need to really stop and make a note of that, and think about putting that answer into a workflow. So you're not reinventing the wheel and retyping emails from the beginning every single time. You want to anticipate the client's questions, and workflows can help you be proactive versus reactive. So I think, Sarah, those are 3 really solid takeaways from this session.
Yeah, I love those. Those are really
yeah, and as always, I want to remind everyone that the Facebook page and our group, our Velocity community group, is a great place to post questions. What I ask all of you, and we've had lots of participants today, you know, I'm always asking this of all of you. If you have a win, if you have a best practice, if you have a really cool tip, if you have a really great workflow, please also post a win or a tip or a workflow idea. The page is not just for questions, it's to post our wins, and we love hearing them and sharing them. So we appreciate that. As always, we appreciate you, Sarah, so much. Sarah is Sarah's the mastermind behind all of this. Look at this stunning training page, the Velocity training page. It's unbelievable the amount of great work that she's put into this, along with the Velocity team. I am constantly in this page. Sometimes I'm in intermediate. Sometimes, Sarah, I even go to getting started. You don't need, like, who knows? Even though I'm trying to help everyone with Masterclass, I'm using this page all the time. And as always, we want to thank Jeff and Kevin, who are the OG inventors of Velocity. They are extraordinary, and our industry is better for them and for Velocity. So we're also so thrilled everyone can join us today. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate Gert and Cindy so much. I feel like, Sarah, I could go hang out with Gert and Cindy for a week, and it wouldn't be enough to get all the great information that they have. So we are so appreciative of you ladies joining us. Thank you.
They are so knowledgeable, and it's so generous of them to really share these, you know, tips and tricks with all of us and take away from their time, as I know they're so super busy. Cindy once said to me that it's not down to the minute, but down to the second in her business. So this is really kind and generous of her to take the time.
And I just wanted to add lastly that I haven't really had any formal velocity training. I have learned everything from the videos and by support groups. I may sometimes phone Michelle, who's my rep for Velocity out east, and sometimes ask a question. But for the most part, everything that you want is in the videos. They're really well done.
They're really short, quick, right to the point, and easy to follow. You've done an amazing job with those, Sarah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm just showing you guys too where the Facebook pages. It's Velocity Community and Support. You can go and search it on Facebook, and there you go. 2,300 masterminds there to help answer your questions or share your wins with.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And Cindy, please stay safe. We hope those warnings are gone. So far you haven't gone under your desk, so you're still
Now it looks okay now, but apparently there are neighborhoods in Barrie, Ontario that have been destroyed.
Oh my
So I have to, my
God.
husband just came running in and I said, I want a conference call.
Oh my
Because
goodness. Stay safe. We'll be keeping our eye on the weather for you.
I will. Thank you. Thank
Awesome.
you for inviting me.
Thanks, Sarah. Great to see everyone. We so appreciate all the participants who joined today. And this is recorded. So if anyone's missed it or had to leave early, we have a recording.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. Take
Yeah.
care.
Bye.